immensely. So Dr. Eisenbach was born in 1923 in Poland, and he had parents and he had two younger brothers, loving parents, loving family, and he had an extended family of about 100 relatives. Guess what? The man sitting here is the only survivor from all 100 relatives. Could you imagine, God forbid, don't imagine, but if you could somehow picture that in your mind, that someone's a one survivor from an extended family. So we're so grateful to have him here and thankful to God that you survived. He studied at three universities in Poland and in Germany and the United States. He immigrated to the United States in 1950 with his wife and two-year-old son. Then he practiced dentistry in the U.S. for about 60 years. That included in the states of Iowa and in California in Anaheim Hills. He has three sons, two daughters-in-laws, and two grandchildren, and three great-grandchildren, Manahara. In 2019, he produced a documentary about his life before, during, and after World War II. The documentary is on YouTube at no charge. It's titled The Star of Jacob. His name is Jacob. Dr. Eisenbach is a survivor of the Holocaust who leveraged the ashes of World War II into international crusade against all genocides. Since retirement in 2012, so to give you an idea, Dr. Eisenbach, thank God, is 101 years old. In April, what day in April is your birthday, Dr. Eisenbach?
April 27th.
April 27th, he's going to be turning God willing 102. And can you imagine? He practiced dentistry to the age of 92 years old. So he just retired 9 years ago. All right, you guys, you have a lot to work. You know what I mean? Chapman, and then go. That's basically what's next. And Dr. Eisenbach told me that if it's up to him, he would love to live till 120. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. And Dr. Eisenbach is now, since his retirement at 92, devoted his life mission to share his personal story of survival, perseverance, Jewish pride, especially in today's climate, today's day and age, with everything happening on campuses in the world, anti-Semitism, anti-Israel rhetoric, and so on and so forth. We have to remember, people say never again is now. Well, not only never again is now, he's a testament that never again is now, because he's telling a story and sharing, as you're going to hear, that we need more of Jewish pride, more being proud of who we are, and not to give in and cave to those that hate us, even though they almost took your life and literally took your entire family's life. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the mic to Dr. Eisenbach, and please give your undivided attention at the end. We're going to have a Q&A where you'll be able to ask him any question you would like. But for now, Dr. Jacob Eisenbach, please give him a round of applause. You can sit. It's okay.
Okay.
You can sit. You can sit. You can sit. Let me turn this back on.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Gurari, for that wonderful introduction. Can you hear me in the back? Raise your hand.
Can you hear him in the back? Raise your hand.
Good. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. By being here, you're expressing your interest in the history of the Jewish people before, during, and after World War II. I was very fortunate to be born into a great, loving family. My parents are wonderful. They adored each other. My father treated my mother like a queen, and my mother treated my father like a king. And they had a special talent of making each one of their 4 children feel that each one of us is the most important person in the world. We have never forgotten that. This is my mother. When I speak about my mother, I like to say that she was not human. She was an angel in a human body. Everybody who knew her admired her. She was charitable. She was helping the poor. She was very loving. She did not go through the Holocaust because she passed away at the age of 41, 1 year before the outbreak of World War II. During her childhood, she had rheumatic fever. Rheumatic fever affected her heart valves, which were not functioning well. And in those days, the medical profession had no solution for that problem. Now, if somebody has defective heart valves, he comes in, they do it in a walk-in and walk-out procedure. In a half an hour, you have your heart valves, defective heart valves, replaced with good, healthy heart valves. My earliest recollection during my childhood was when I was 3 years old. And my father came home with a beautiful red tricycle for myself. And he brought gifts for my siblings as well. I can see that tricycle now as vivid as I did when I first got it. When the war broke out on September 1st, 1939, I was 16 years old. And my childhood had transformed from a wonderful childhood and youth into a most tragic condition, most horrible condition. Hitler came to power in 1933. He became the Chancellor of Germany. A Chancellor is like a Prime Minister who has all the powers. Secretly, he was building an army of volunteers because he did not trust the regular German army. Those volunteers, called the SS, were volunteering for torturing, persecuting, and killing Jews without mercy. Their commander, General Heinrich Himmler, indoctrinated them to kill Jews without mercy, and they did. In June of 1939, just 3 months before the war broke, a ship by the name St. Louis arrived at the shore of the United States with 950 Jewish refugees escaping from Europe from the deadly hands of the Nazis, asking for asylum. That asylum was denied them. Who was responsible for that decision? It was the American Secretary of State, Cordell Hull, under President Roosevelt. He was the oldest lasting Secretary of State in the United States for 12 years. He told President Roosevelt that we cannot accept these Jews because they do not have a return address. Preposterous. What an excuse for anti-Semitism. He did not carry a swastika on his arm, but he carried hatred in his heart. When news arrived from Europe to the State Department, Cordell Hull meticulously kept those news secret. He did not want those news to be spread to the lower echelons of the German people and the German government. In 1939, on September 1st, 1939, the war broke out. The city of Lodz, where I was born and raised, was the second largest city in Poland after the capital of Warsaw. They took over my hometown without firing a single shot. The Nazis prepared the Germans for war secretly. Nobody knew about it. Nobody heard about it. All of a sudden, a few days before the war broke out, Hitler signed a non-aggression pact with Joseph Stalin, who was the president of the Soviet Union. They decided to divide Poland. The Nazis would take Western Poland, and the Russians would take Eastern Poland. And they signed an agreement. They would not interfere with each other's activity. A few days after they took over the city of Lodz, which had 350,000 Jews, half of the city's population was Jewish. They started building a ghetto. A ghetto is a place where Jewish people live. So they took the old part of the city and started building a wrought wire fence around that part of the city. And they ordered all Jews to be in that ghetto before May 1st, 1940, just a few months after the outbreak of the war. They issued an order all Jews have to be inside the ghetto by May 1st, 1940, and any Jew found outside the ghetto would be shot to death on the spot. A famous lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, the president's wife, was a great humanitarian. She bypassed her husband, the president. She bypassed Cordell Hall, and she went to Virginia to appeal with members of the State Department in Virginia to issue them entry visas. There was another ship that arrived in Virginia, a Turkish ship with 750 Jewish refugees seeking asylum. She obtained visas for every single one Jew to enter the United States. What a great humanitarian. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in Poland, but not Polish people were all anti-Semites. I had many Polish friends myself. There were some Polish humanitarians who were hiding Jews literally in holes on the ground to save them from the Nazis. And then when the Nazis found out about it, they killed not only the Jews, but also those Polish humanitarians who were attempting to save them. But that did not stop them from continuing the humanitarian work. I was asked the question, why did Hitler hate the Jews so much? I did some research and I found a book with Hitler's speeches. On page 222 of that book, Hitler was speaking why he hates the Jews. He was planning to establish a 1,000-year German imperium without justice, without morality. And it was the Jews who were first ones in history who brought those ideas to the world. And they are in my way, he said. And this is why I have to eliminate as many Jews as I can reach. I was a high school student when the war broke out. I was 16. And the Nazis, after they locked up the ghetto on May 1st, 1940, they started controlling the shipment of food. Each person in the ghetto received the same amount, just a handful of food for a whole week. Many Jewish people were dropping dead in the streets of the ghetto from starvation. The Nazis were shipping trainful of innocent Jewish women, men, and children, trainful consisting of maybe 8 or 10 train cars loaded with Jews. Those cars, each of these cars were locked up hermetically, and outside was sitting a Nazi soldier with machine guns so that nobody escapes. The Polish train conductors told us that they are taking these trainloads of Jews to Auschwitz, Majdanek, and Treblinka. Those were 3 camps that has gas chambers. And they never saw a single person getting out of there. And they could smell burning flesh. So we know what they are doing with our people. They were telling them that they are going to other camps for labor. But that was a big lie. Put up this picture. Those are pictures of my immediate family. This is a picture of my entire family together. That's my dad, my sister Fela, my mother Sarah. This is me in the middle. My youngest brother Sam, 2 years younger, and my youngest brother Henry was 5 years younger.
Sorry, it's small, but
Can you see this picture?
can I zoom in? You know,
One of the first ones stepped out of the ghetto was my brother Henry. He was 11 years old. And they put him into the gas chamber the day they arrived. And I have never seen Henry again. This is my sister Fela, the oldest of the 4 children in my immediate family. When the war broke out, she was 18. She just graduated from high school and was admitted to the university to study pharmacology. When the war broke out, that eliminated all possibilities of her receiving a higher education. Before May 1st, 1940, it was still possible for Jews to escape from the German occupied part of Poland to the Russian part of Poland. The Russians did not kill Jews. My sister Fela was a very beautiful and bright girl. When she was 17 years old, she invented a new language. She and one of her girlfriends could speak that language fluently, but nobody else knew what they were talking about. They spoke in Polish, but instead of spelling the words from left to right, they went from right to left, and nobody could understand what they were saying. She and a few of her girlfriends managed to escape to the Russian part of Poland. And settled in the city of Lvov, LWOW. And we completely lost contact with Fela. In 1942, Hitler decided to break the non-aggression pact with Joseph Stalin and invade the Soviet Union because he wanted to get a hold of the 3 million Jews who lived in the Soviet Union. He was advised by his top military advisors and by his top political advisors not to invade the Soviet Union. Napoleon tried it in 1812, about 100 years ago, and failed miserably. Why did he fail miserably? Because when he got into Russia, he could not supply the front lines with ammunition and food because of the brutal Russian winters of 60, 70 below zero and 5, 6 feet of snow. And he lost many of his soldiers and retreated with his defeated with his head down. Hitler was told that story, and he was told that he will not be able to supply his front lines like Napoleon did. But he didn't listen to anybody. He did attack the Soviet Union. And he was defeated by the Soviet Union for the same reason Napoleon was defeated. He could not supply the front lines and retreated, defeated from the Soviet Union. And on his way back, he took over the city of Lvov, where my sister was living. After the war, I met a lady who was from the city of Lvov, and she told me what the Nazis did. to the 110,000 Jewish people involved. They came with machine guns and murdered all 110,000 Jews involved in 3 days. And I have never seen fella again. One day, I received an order to report for deportation with 600 other men. After the war, I met a man who survived that group. He escaped from the group, and he told me what the Nazis did to them. This was my father in the middle. They had them carry heavy rocks from place to place, useless work on a starvation diet, and they all died out. And that left me with my brother Sam. My brother Sam was 2 years younger than I was.
One. Yeah.
This was my brother Sam.
Soldier, which one? You? Not this one. Not this one. This one.
Yeah.
This one.
One day in the ghetto, I received an order to report for deportation. I was 19 years old. My brother Sam was 17. Having heard all the stories of those trainloads of people that were shipped to these gas chambers in these 3 camps, I disobeyed the order to report. I wasn't about to go to the gas chamber willingly. My brother did not receive the order to report for deportation. He did not have to go. He could have said, Jack, I know where you are going. I'm not going with you. I'm staying right here. No amount of persuasion was helpful to make another statement. He said, Jack, our whole family is now gone. Only 2 of us are left. Now they're taking you away, and I know where you are going. You're going to the gas chambers. I'm not staying here by myself. I'm going with you. No matter where you are going, I am going. Whatever happens to you will happen to me. And he said that knowing full well where we are going. I went into hiding. I managed to hide for about a month. We lived in a one-room place, Sam and I, upstairs with squeaking wooden steps leading to the upstairs room. Neighbors were telling me that the police was there looking for me, but they couldn't find me. I emptied the room after I got the order to report for deportation and put a padlock on the outside of the door. And the police was there. They saw the padlock and they walked away. After we ran out of places to hide, we decided to go back to that one room. It was empty. One night, we hear squeaking steps on those wooden steps and loud voices. There were two policemen coming up. One of them had a flashlight. We were hiding in that room in a pile of straw. And the policeman with the flashlight says to the companion, "There's a padlock on the door. There's nobody here. Let's leave." And the other guy was a wise guy and said, "No, let's not leave. Let's go downstairs, find the crowbar, knock off the padlock, and see what's going on inside." So he did just that. So he knocked off the padlock, which we had a friend put on. And the good guy said to him, "Well, the room is empty. Let's go." And he said, "No, let's look at that pile of straw and see what's happening." And they find us in that pile of straw. Me and my son and my brother Sam. And we were taken to Auschwitz. We were just about to be unloaded from the train into the gas chambers. All of a sudden, the train conductors who took us there got orders to take us away from that murderous place and took us to safety. We couldn't figure out why me and my brother Sam. We didn't know, but it happened 3 other places when we were in danger of dying and we were taken away to safety. Finally, I decided that it was the Almighty God in heaven who saved us from death. So it took us to another camp in the city of Skorzysko, 60 miles away. There was a ammunition factory there. And adjoining the camp was a concentration camp with 6,000 Jewish slaves working in that ammunition factory. And they were marched from early morning for 12-hour shifts on the guard by Nazis with machine guns, and back in the evening to the camp. And that's when they are unloaded. Before the war ended, on January 15th to 16th, 1945, we were liberated by the Russian army. And the Russians were very kind to us because when the Nazis attacked the Soviet Union, they were very brutal to the Russian people. So we were hating the Nazis, and that's what we had in common with the Russians. One night, the Nazi soldiers which were on towers with machine guns, would you distribute those cards? That shows a Nazi soldier guarding a person with a machine gun. And there's a story written on the other card. I did not write that story. I wrote a book after the war entitled Where You Go, I Go. I recommend to you that you get that book from Amazon. It will cost you $14 and it will be delivered to your doorstep in 2-3 days. I also made a movie, a documentary movie after the war about my life before, during, and after the war. You can watch that movie on YouTube free of charge. YouTube is beaming that movie, and it will continue to be beamed for generations and generations to come. because we cannot allow the story of the Holocaust to be erased from human memory. I was once invited to speak to a worldwide radio in English. There were millions and millions of people listening. When I retired from dentistry, after 62 years of practicing dentistry in the United States, I did not retire. I became an international speaker. I traveled to many countries to spread the dangers that the human race is facing. What are those dangers? I think one of the greatest dangers is hate. Hate is just a word, but it can be the cause of millions of innocent people. So I speak against hatred. I speak about the Holocaust, which applies to the Jewish people, and I speak about the genocide, which applies to non-Jewish people. There is a book entitled Preventing Genocide, written by the former American Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, in cooperation with the former American Secretary of Defense, William Cohen. In this book, these two authors of that book describe in detail how genocides can be prevented. I highly recommend that each one of you gets a copy of that book. Their plan to prevent the genocide can be very effective. You can try to get this on Amazon or from the
She would only take something on the
Museum of
first
the
floor.
Holocaust in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I was asked the question, why do so many people hate the Jews? And I answered that question by telling my audiences that it was Hitler who was the killer of Jews, but there were millions of people who were very friendly to the Jewish people. Here's a book called Beyond Hitler's Grasp, the heroic rescue of Bulgarian Jews in the country of Bulgaria. There was a Bulgarian Jew who came to Orange County and became the rabbi of a synagogue in Fullerton. And they Most rabbis got a 5 or 10-year contract, but they liked him so much that they gave him a lifetime contract. Eventually, Rabbi Chaim Asa, I know him personally, organized a delegation of prominent Jews to travel to Bulgaria and to thank the king of Bulgaria and the Bulgarian people for saving all of the Jews from the Nazis when Bulgaria was occupied by the Nazis. The king of Bulgaria refused to turn over the 50,000 Jewish people who lived in Bulgaria. The Bulgarian people loved the Jews, and the Jews loved Bulgaria. And Hitler was unable to reach a single one. Albania, a friend of mine, became an American ambassador to Albania, a small country in Eastern Europe. Albania had 90% Muslims and 10% Christians and thousands of Jews. And when Albania was occupied by the Nazis, those people were hiding their neighbors, their Jewish neighbors, in such a way that Albania did not turn over a single Jew, and the Nazis couldn't find a single one. The Japanese ambassador to Lithuania, what's that noise, Rabbi? Chiyuni Sugihara, a Japanese ambassador to Lithuania. He couldn't stand watching what the Nazis were doing to the Jews. So he asked his Japanese government to give him permission to issue 10,000 Japanese visas. And his wife was in full support of his action. The Japanese were allied with Hitler in those days, and they denied his request. And he knew that if they deny his request, they'll fire him from his position and brought him back to Japan, where he lived in poverty and obscurity. But now Chiyuni Sugihara is a great humanitarian hero in Japan, and they built a beautiful statue in his honor. Also, in Little Tokyo and Los Angeles, the Japanese people built a statue to honor Chiyuni Sugihara. Israel has built a museum of the Holocaust. 2 years ago, I was giving a speech in a town not far from here, an American president was a graduate of that college in that town. And after my presentation, the president of the college invited me to a dinner. And across from me was sitting a gentleman who especially flew in from Israel to listen to my speech. And after that speech, he offered me the position of international ambassador of Yad Vashem, the museum in Israel. I was 99 years old. And that was the age when I have not been traveling anymore. And I turned down this offer because I'm unable to travel all over the world. To spread the ideas of Yad Vashem. I spoke to universities, colleges, high schools, junior and senior high schools, churches of all denominations, including Muslim, to keep the story of the Holocaust alive. Yes. We'll have a question and answer period. I'll answer any questions you'll ask me. Don't be bashful. I just have one request. Don't ask me questions of political nature. I do not deal in controversial subjects. I only deal in subjects that I personally experience. So please go ahead and ask me questions.
Okay.
Anything.
Okay, if anybody wants to ask Dr. Eisenbach a question, you could ask, and also we'll give a chance on Zoom for those that want to ask. We have a whole bunch of people on Zoom watching live as well. Some of your parents are watching here. Just to give the people at Zoom, you get to look and see. Look around the Zoom here. What's happening? All right. Let's look at that. All right. Anybody have a question for Dr. Eisenbach? All right, go ahead.
What happened to your brother Sam?
What happened to your brother Sam?
I knew you asked me that question.
You knew you were gonna ask that question.
I know it. When Sam and I were liberated, we went back to the city of Lodz. I enrolled at the university. The Polish army. Within 2 years, at the age of 22, he obtained the rank of colonel, one rank under a general. Brother Sam's picture.
It's on the screen. Everybody can see it. Dr. Eisenbach, it's on the screen.
Yeah, that's my brother Sam. Army decided he was in charge of a division of 10,000 soldiers. And army decided to send him to the city of Bialystok, just 60 miles away. Bialystok was known to be a very anti-Semitic city. So Sam changed his name before going to Bialystok from Sam Eisenbach to Stanislav Adamowski, as Polish as you can get it, to hide his Jewish identity. And he goes to Bialystok, and he was in charge of a division of 10,000 soldiers out there. One day he came home from office, and a Polish anti-Semite was waiting for him inside his home. He found out that Stanislav Adamowski, Jew. As soon as he came in through the door, he put a bullet in his head and killed him. That happened 2 years after the war in 1947. And I got that story. Hot tears were running down my face and soaked my pillow. I could not stop crying. That's what happened to the last of my family.
Anybody else? Yeah. If you could say it.
How and when did you immigrate to the United States?
How and when did you immigrate to the United States?
How did I what?
How and when did you immigrate to the United States?
I came to the United States in 1950. We left Poland 1 year after that happened. When in the city of Kielce, 1 year after the war,
Yeah, I'll bring it to you.
Polish anti-Semites with swastikas on their arms came in the city of Kielce, into the streets of Kielce, and murdered 43 of the few Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. And we decided that tomorrow they may come to lodge and do the same thing. We decided to leave Poland. We left Poland in 1946. Poland was under control of the communist Russians, and they would not allow the citizens to leave their country because they didn't want them to see how people live in free societies. There was a Jewish organization in Palestine called Bricha. Bricha in Hebrew means escape. They came to Poland and with trucks, and they took 300 of us over the border, over the southern border into Czechoslovakia. And Czechoslovakia was at that time a free country. It was not dominated by the Soviets. I have not enough words to praise the Czech people, how they received us. They were very friendly to us. They were ordered to inspect our backpacks. They didn't even do that. They had beautiful tables with delicious food and elegant passenger train waiting for us. And they said they will take us any place around the world, wherever we want to go. Some of the most civilized people in Europe were the Czech people. And they told us, if you have any relatives in any country in the world, just let us know the name of the country and the name of the relatives, and we'll find them for you. We gave them the name of my cousin, Marysia Rosen, who left Poland a year before the war for Buenos Aires, Argentina. They put an ad in Buenos Aires. There are 400,000 living Jews there. So they put an ad in the paper, and that's how we found Marysia and her husband. And all of these pictures of my family, the Nazis destroyed all our possessions. We didn't have any pictures left. And those pictures were sent to us by Marysia from Buenos Aires. A few days after they occupied my city of Lodz, 4 Nazi soldiers with rifles came to our apartment. Most people live in apartments. And they performed a highway robbery. They just took whatever they wanted. They took my mother's fur coat, my father's fur coat, the silverware, thick feather beds we used in Poland, was very cold. Anything they wanted. At the age of 13, my father bought me for my bar mitzvah a beautiful thistle watch. And it was rounded according to the curve of my wrist. And one of the soldiers noticed that watch, and he said to me, "Give me that watch." I could either give him that watch or be killed on the spot. So I gave him the watch, and he put it in his pocket. Ever since I was a young boy, whenever the conversation came up about the United States, it was the biggest country in the world. So I always wanted to come to the United States. At the same time we came to the United States, my 3 cousins, their name was Zuckerman. They lived just 10 minutes away from us in Lodz. We grew up together. But they always wanted to go to Australia. And they tried to persuade us to go with them to Australia. But we always wanted to come to the United States. So we parted our way. There were 3 brothers. One of them died at the age of 72. He was my best friend. Grew up together. And he was full of mischief. He was a lot of fun to be with. And he died in Australia. They invited me to come for a Passover Seder, and he didn't eat anything on the day of Passover until 12 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, the ladies were serving the dinner, the Passover foods, and he started eating and drinking at 12 and didn't finish eating and drinking until midnight. And he told me during those 12 hours, he gained a stone. What is a stone? A stone is an Australian measure of weight. It consists of 16 pounds. He gained 16 pounds in one day. He was physically very fit. He had a swimming pool. He was swimming, exercising every day. But his overeating caught up with him, and he passed away at the age of 72. These three brothers became very successful in Australia. Before the war, they were producing men's socks by hand-driven machines. When they went to Australia, they bought electric machines. And they made so much money in it that they bought 600 apartments. And they gave up producing men's socks. And then apartments had too much loss of tenants and a big turnover. So they started buying shopping centers. And that's what they did.
Someone on Zoom asked a question. What's the most important life lesson you've learned that you'd like to share? Students on Zoom. What's the most important life lesson being through that you went through the Holocaust and seeing the worst horrors? What is the most important life lesson?
Questions?
Go ahead, repeat that. He's
What?
asking,
Someone asked, what's the most important life lesson?
What?
What's the most important life lesson that you've taken?
The
From your
most
experience?
important life lesson?
Yes.
My most important life lesson is no matter how dark the clouds may be, always remember that the day will come when the sun will break through. Even when you're in the deepest trouble, facing death, which I was, I always remembered the blessing that my mother gave her 4 children. They gathered up her 4 children, put their arms around us, and blessed us by saying, "You are my most important person in my life." And when I was at the bottom of the pit, I couldn't go any further deep, I always remember never lose hope for a better day, no matter how bad a situation you find yourself. Another very important message that I have for you. The Jewish people produced a civilization which benefited the entire world. And the Jewish people were highly respected by millions and millions of people. Be proud to be Jewish. The Jewish people contribute to civilization more than anybody else. 4,000 years ago lived a man by the name Abraham. Before Abraham, people believed in many gods. God of rain, God of sun, God of water, God of this, God of that. But Abraham announced to the world for the first time that there's only one God. And since that time, Jews have been persecuted. They didn't believe in one God. The Jews were persecuted and killed throughout the centuries, from the Persian Empire to the Crusaders, to the Spanish Inquisition in 1492, to anti-Semitism in Eastern Europe, the Khmelnytsky murderers group, anti-Semitism in Eastern Europe. And now the Nazis. The American famous philosopher and author Mark Twain once said that Israel has suffered many attacks and murders throughout the centuries. All of these murderers of the Jewish people are now gone, including the Roman Empire, which threw Jewish slaves into wild, hungry lion cages for entertainment. But the Jews are still here. And the reason that Jews are here is because of their unbreakable and indestructible faith in the Almighty God.
Okay. So, for those that want to talk to Dr. Eisenbach, I think you'll have a couple more minutes after you can come and you can ask you questions one-on-one if you want to take a picture. But we would like, if possible, thank God Dr. Eisenbach is going to live till 120 years old. Currently, he's almost 102. Are you having a birthday celebration for your 102nd birthday?
Yes, I will. On April 27th, next year.
This year?
Yeah, this year.
Yeah, we're in February.
Just a short time from now.
Short time from now. Yes, you're all, and I remember last time he came and spoke was just short at Chapman, was just short of his 100th birthday, and he invited us all to his birthday. And now You are just short of your 102nd birthday, thank God. And are they invited?
Well, you are all invited, and you will receive invitations by mail.
You're getting one by mail.
My oldest son, Harry, who is an MD, a medical doctor, and he's retired age 76. He gave me a 100-year birthday party, and he insisted that we invite only blood relatives from all over the world. So I did some research to find blood relatives all over the world, and they were spread. They were spread in places that northern Canada, South Africa, many other places, in places I never knew I had that many blood relatives. I never heard of them, but they all showed up. But now, for my 102nd birthday, he decided that he would like to give me a party on President Trump's estate in Florida. President Trump has a huge estate and several golf courses in Florida. So he and his wife of 40 years flew down to Florida, and they arrived at a place that looked like an entrance. So they stopped there, and there were several angry faces holding handguns in their hands with their fingers on the trigger to shoot. They were protecting the safety of President Trump. And they said to Harry, the president is not allowing strangers to have birthday parties on his property. And Henry and Harry and his wife just moved away from that place, and he's now investigating
For another location?
another location. Yeah.
We'll host it here if you want. We're gonna if you want, we can host it here for everybody.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a big party, right? We're all gonna come. We'll have a big birthday cake, 102.
Yeah.
So I want to thank before we thank Dr. Eisenbach and we send you off. After I thank him, if it's okay with Dr. Eisenbach, if it's okay, we'll put you here. I'll take a photo with everybody together. I think it's such a beautiful occasion that we're all here together and we came to hear from you. So if you're okay with that, we'll take a photo with everybody behind you. So that way
Absolutely.
fantastic. We took the same photo 4 years ago.
Right.
You remember? So I want to do it again.
Absolutely.
You look younger.
Yeah.
And now let's all give Dr. Eisenbach a big round of applause. And I invite you that when you turn 102 years old, you're welcome back to Chabad Chapman to share whatever you want to talk about. Dr. Eisenbach, Hashem, God should bless you with many, many more. You know, as I said at the beginning, he told me he wants to live till 120. And I said, what about 180?
Well, I have to think about that.
He has to think about 180, but he really wants to live to 120. So I give at least 120, right? Hopefully Mashiach comes and he'll live for eternity. But I give him a blessing that he should live till 120, healthy, happy years, continuing this wonderful life that you've, thank God, flourished and bloomed after what you suffered and the atrocities. And God bless you. That you should be strong and healthy, and you should have a lot of nachas from your children, and only good things for you till 120. Bis 120 in Yiddish. Till 120.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
All right, we're all gonna come over here. Let's all gather up together, and I'll put Dr. Eisenbach here. Thank you everybody for joining on Zoom. Hope you enjoyed. Dr. Eisenbach, you want to say goodbye to the people on Zoom?
Yeah.
That joined. These are all people that joined on Zoom.
Okay. On Zoom,
It's
I I don't travel much. But I speak to people long distance. If it's too far to travel, I do it on Zoom. And I'm short distance to pick me up and bring me back home. And I still speak all over the world. And I'm singing.
Thank you, everybody, for joining the Zoom. Take care, everybody. You're welcome. You're welcome, everybody.